What's going on YouTube? My name is Eric Sun and I'm a photographer based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And in this video, I want to talk about a couple things. One thing is, I know I've been away for a while and I haven't really been posting much on YouTube, but I do want to give a shout out to everybody who has been commenting, who has been subscribing and watching my videos, and just letting me know that these videos are helpful. I really appreciate it. And that is part of the reason why I do this, is that I want to know that I'm at least contributing something positive to the world and that is being helpful. So please continue to comment, please ask your questions and also sharing your thoughts. And also some of you have also told me about certain equipment improvements that I put out videos for. So shout out to you for that too. I'll be providing updates for everybody. But the main topic of this video is talking about the R5, the Canon R5, I guess Mark I now. And I've been using it for a while and just kind of want to give my thoughts on it. And I want to also preface it by saying that I know that the biggest video on my channel is basically me vouching for the 5D Mark IV. Is it still a good camera? Does it still compete in 2024? And I feel like that could be a whole video in and of itself, but in a nutshell, I just kind of want to share that I have no obligation. I have nothing to uphold. I don't have anything to prove on encouraging people to get the 5D Mark IV or talking about a DSLR in this day and age with everything becoming mirrorless. Mostly because I do believe that the 5D Mark IV is still an amazing camera, though my opinion may have shifted just a little bit just because of my work in and of itself. Like, I do a lot more video work now, and I think we can all kind of agree that even though the 5D Mark IV was basically a great camera that so many professional photographers used, I do want to say that the mirrorless cameras blow DSLRs out of the water, specifically the 5D Mark IV in terms of its video. Now, photo-wise, it's still a great camera, but I'm not trying to make this video on justifying why I feel like the 5D Mark IV is still a great camera. I honestly feel like that it is. It's a full-frame camera, it's a great camera, it's very durable. I still use it from time to time, and but I will say that the Canon R5 now is my main camera. There are pros and cons to the 5D Mark IV that I prefer over the Canon R5, and there's things over the Canon R5 that I prefer over the 5D Mark IV. It really depends on your tool, what you're going to be using it for, the job, and how you can provide the best value to your clients. So without talking more about it, let's just kind of dive into the video. I'm going to try to make this video short and concise. So the Canon R5. I'm not going to be going into too in-depth about its specs, what it can do, just because there's so many videos out there. The Canon R5 Mark I is considered an older camera now. The R5 Mark II just came out, it was released. Canon released that along with other cameras and other accessories and everything like that, just to make the R5 Mark II, I guess, the best camera that it can be. But I'm going to be talking about the R5, my experience with it, what I like, and then maybe at the end I'll talk about the R5 versus the R5 Mark II and if I'll be upgrading. So with that said, here is the Canon R5 that I use. This is my everyday camera now that I use. It is definitely a workhorse still. Canon is very good at creating cameras that are workhorses. This camera, as you can see, that it does have the aperture ring adapter right here that I use from the RF to EF mount. And I got it because I honestly don't want to spend that kind of money on switching all of my glass to RF lenses. I mean, the EF lens lineup is so great. I mean, and I can also use third-party lenses for it. So I mean, I have a huge arsenal of different lenses that I can use. I can rent, I can buy new ones, and I don't really have to worry about it. This may also be just because I don't have the eye developed for it, but I honestly don't see a difference between RF lenses and EF lenses in terms of its photo quality. Everything professionally, if it's a good photo, I mean, they look great. I mean, it doesn't matter what camera you could actually be shooting on, but the lens, you know, the lens does play a significant role in the image quality, but I just don't personally see it. I mean, if you do, definitely let me know what you feel like the difference is. I can't justify spending an extra $1,000 switching from EF to RF when I have this adapter right here. And something that people did tell me is that the ring on the new RF lenses, they're customizable. You can change it for like your aperture or whatever else that you can customize it. This adapter that I have, the RF to EF adapter, it has this ring on it. right here. I mean, you can hear me spinning it, and I can customize this to whatever I want. I don't really use it, but I do like the fact that I do have it. And so I did buy it when I got the R5 because I was like, just in case, like it really does benefit and change my workflow, I want to have the ability to have it. So that's why I got it. And of course on here you can see that there is an L bracket. I have an L bracket on all of my main cameras now. Yeah, so this is a full frame mirrorless camera. It's my first mirrorless camera that I've ever gotten. I've been using it. When I first got it, I actually would bring my 5D Mark IV with me to almost every shoot for like maybe 2 months until I got really familiar with the Canon R5. And there were some instances where there were just some menu settings that I didn't think that I needed to adjust, or that I just completely forgot about in terms of my workflow, that when I ran into the issue on site with a client, I would just switch cameras really quick and just keep it going. I wouldn't be like, oh, hey, wait, let me change the setting on my camera really quick. It was just easier for me to switch, change the lens, keep shooting, and just keep things going. But now that I've been using this camera for a long time, say over a year for sure, I'm pretty familiar with it. And one thing that I will say is that I'll start with the positives of this camera, is that I really like how compact it is, how much more lightweight it is compared to a DSLR and a 5D Mark IV. I do like that there is the flip screen that comes out right here. As you can see, I mean, you can shoot from kind of any angle depending on your shot and what you're shooting. There's also a screen right here that tells you kind of, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that, but kind of tells you what your camera mode is. And there's extra dials up top with record button right here, all of that. I mean, so the setup of this is a little bit different than the 5D Mark IV. It took me a little bit of time to get used to, but once I got used to it, I don't really have any complaints over it. I really have always been a fan of Canon and Canon's user interface and just how they put things together for the ease and the speed of use, to where I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go through menus to change certain settings. Like everything is either a button or a couple buttons. And for me to switch from photo to video, I literally just hit mode, info, and it goes from photo to video and from video to photo. It was annoying at first because they removed the photo to video kind of switch. But then I got used to it and it's like second nature now. I do know the R5 Mark II, they brought the little video to photo switch back, which is nice. So you can switch a lot faster. But the image quality out of the R5 is amazing. I mean, I really like it. I don't have any complaints with it. I mean, I didn't have to buy any extra equipment to adapt the equipment I already have to make it work, like the remotes, the triggers, the flashes, gimbals, like everything that I have. I mean, I was just able to get a new body, use all the same lenses, everything like that, and it worked perfectly fine. The only difference is that I did have to get a new memory card, which is a CF Express Type B, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. The CF Express Type B right here, it's different. The 5D Mark IV did not have that. And then your standard SD card, which I really appreciate that Canon does keep, where it does have the SD card, because most cameras and most memory card readers, they just have an SD card in it, so it's really convenient. Sometimes if I don't have the CF Express Type B memory card reader with me, I would just transfer everything to my SD card, and then I can continue working there if I'm out on a shoot all day or I got multiple shoots and I don't come back home. So that's really great on it. The menu system is a little bit different just because there are a few more features that Canon did do to upgrade this camera compared to the 5D Mark IV, or just their previous cameras. And one thing that I really love about this camera is the video. Now, I do want to say, like I've said this before, that the video side, mirrorless cameras nowadays, how powerful they are in terms of video, just completely, just being fully transparent, they beat DSLRs out the water, in my opinion, in terms of its video specs. Like this can shoot 4K 60, it can shoot up to 120 frames in 4K and 1080, and it shoots in 2 Canon log profiles, C-Log and C-Log 3. It does not have C-Log 2. The R5 Mark II does have C-Log 2, but I really love the fact that it comes with log. I was thinking about getting log for my 5D Mark IV, but just the amount of money it was to actually pay for them to install log on there, for me to ship it, it was just not worth it. I honestly would rather have just saved up money and bought a new camera, which is what I did. But the video specs of this camera is, I mean, it's amazing. The video quality that I'm able to provide for my clients now is amazing when I do interviews, testimonials, when I do walkthrough videos of homes, when I do anything, any lifestyle videos or anything like that. The R5 video is awesome. I mean, so this is a hybrid camera, is not a cinema camera. It's not only a photo camera. I mean, it's able to do both. They built it that way, and I think it does both really, really well. I'll throw some photos on the screen of some images that I've taken with the R5 of just all the different genres that I shoot, just so that you can kind of have an idea of what they look like. The only thing that I've done with the images is that I've resized them to make sure that they fit the screen so you can see the whole image. And yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things that I really like with this. And real world scenarios, I've only run into a couple of issues here and there, which I'll share on my cons of this camera. But I would say maybe 8 or 9 out of 10 shoots is pretty flawless. And so I do not regret buying this camera. And I guess I'll talk about if I recommend this afterwards. So with that said, we'll move into the cons of this camera. So the cons of it is, and I feel like that this is just a general mirrorless camera issue that I have with it, is, and of course I'm comparing this with the DSLR because the 5D Mark IV was the camera that I had before I got the R5. So that's what I'm going to be comparing it to. The EVFs, I feel like some people love them, some people don't like them. I do not like the EVF. I don't like the EVF because, one, I feel like that there is a lag. There's a delay between switching from the live view mode to the EVF. So much so that I no longer really use the EVF anymore at all. Whereas on the 5D Mark IV, like I would use the optical viewfinder as much as I would use the live view mode. Just because it was really quick, and because of DSLR, it's a mirror, so there's not a computer necessarily switching and trying to project an image on two different areas of the camera. It's just a mirror. You look through the optical viewfinder, boom, what you see with your naked eyes, what you can see on the scene, your camera's able to focus, boom, grab the shot, and it's just very quick, it's very seamless. Whereas the issue that I've had with the R5 is that sometimes when I'm switching from live view mode to the EVF, I mean, granted, I don't have to press a button. There is a sensor back here on the back by the EVF to where you can actually, when it senses an object kind of blocking that, then it will automatically switch from the LCD screen to the EVF. But when I look at it, there's still a split second of a delay for the image to pull up into the EVF, and sometimes I do miss the shot. And also it's just like whatever, even with certain settings. So there is this setting called exposure compensation that I use quite often because I use flash a lot, especially for portraits and headshots. What exposure compensation does is that you can dial in your settings on your camera first. You turn exposure compensation on, and then when you're looking through your EVF or through your live view mode, the screen on the back, the camera will display an image that automatically adjusts for the ambient light that's in the room, so you can see what you're shooting, the scene, you can compose your image, and you're also able to, the camera's also allowing itself to find its subjects with the autofocus so that you can capture what you need to capture without having much trouble. So with the electronic viewfinder, I mean, it does have that, but I do like the optical viewfinder a little bit better. I just feel like it flows more. But with the issue of the exposure compensation is that sometimes when I'm shooting, so I had this job with it was like a corporate headshot session with around 20 something people, and they wanted the background to be the corporate windows in the office. And it was a really bright and sunny day, and so of course you already know that the background is going to be a lot brighter than the subject, and so what I normally do is that I would expose then for the outside, and of course everything indoors would be completely dark. That wasn't a problem because I was using flash, so I was gonna be able to light everything up. And then, you know, when I did, everything looked great. But the issue that I had with the exposure compensation with this mirrorless camera is that with exposure compensation on, it would expose for the windows. So it would expose for the windows, the view through the windows would be properly exposed, but everything that I'm shooting would be completely underexposed. And so when that happened, it was actually really difficult sometimes on like when I had a subject in front of me, for the camera to find where the eye was, where the subject was, and for it to nail focus every single time. Now, I feel like that's such a big problem because, I mean, I shoot tethered and the clients are coming over after each few photos that we take for them to pick out their favorites, and they would see all the misfocused images that I would take, and it kind of looked bad on me. They may not have thought anything about it, but I felt like that was a bad thing, because sometimes what if the shot that was misfocused was actually a photo that they're like, no, I actually liked how my hair was here, I liked how it was looking here, but just because the image was really soft, I would be like, sorry, I'm not gonna send that over to you just because the photo's not in focus. So I had a hard time exposing for that, for subjects, or focusing on subjects when the background was brighter. I know this is a very specific example because most people place subjects in brighter locations because you want the subject to be brighter. But because I was shooting in an office space and I had lights, I was able to control how the lighting was affecting the scene. But because of exposure compensation, it only exposed for the windows, subject was really dark, and I missed focus. And this didn't matter about skin tone, it didn't matter about anything like that. It was just the fact that whatever subject was in front of me, it was completely dark because it would expose, the camera would expose for the windows. So that was an issue that I ran into that I thought was really annoying, especially from a professional camera, for you to not be confident in if you're gonna nail focus in that shot or not. Like every other shot, I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, I hope this is in focus because this was a good shot. I hope it was in focus. And being hopeful, if you nail focus in a camera like this and spending this much money on it, I feel like is not a good sign. So I am not a fan of the EVF, but again, I know some people are, but that's just my gripe with it. And that's a real world issue that I dealt with using a mirrorless camera. So it's just a lot easier for me. Like I didn't have that issue with the 5D Mark IV as I did with this. And again, it is a very specific issue. So that was my first gripe with it. All right, so the other issue that I have with this camera, another con, is I think we all know is the overheating issue. Now, the overheating issue is really only an issue when you're shooting video and shooting higher quality video like 4K and up. When I shoot stills, it still has like the overheating warning, but it's still able to let me continue shooting photos. But the camera will stop shooting if it gets hot enough shooting 4K and up to where it actually counts down for you on how much more you can film before it stops you. Which I guess is nice, but for me, that's such a huge pain because, I mean, to me, it's like, in short, all right, I'll say it this way. In short, it doesn't really matter how great the camera specs are. When you need it on a job and when you need it to work and it doesn't work because it's overheating, it doesn't matter how great the specs are, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna be able to use it. So for me, that is my biggest gripe about this camera, is that it does overheat. And I mean, and I live in Atlanta, so it does get pretty warm down here. I mean, there was a heat advisory for like almost a month straight, hitting 97, 98, 96. And there's places even hotter than where I live. And as fast as this camera overheats doing video, I can only imagine how frustrating it is for other people. So, I mean, of course I can shoot in 1080, but I like shooting everything in 4K 24, 30, or 60. Because I just like the ability to be able to punch in. I like the quality of the 4K video from this camera, but whenever I hit that overheating issue, then I need to switch back to 1080. And it's just annoying. And it's really frustrating because, you know, like I said, like what good is a tool if it's not reliable, if it's not dependable? If I can't make it through a whole shoot without having to worry if it's gonna overheat or not in the summertime, then I mean, is it really a camera worth really investing in? And so that's something that I really wrestled with when I first bought it. I was like, man, I don't really know. This overheating issue really is an issue for me. But I decided to keep it because, I mean, one, I already have it. I sold my 1DX Mark II to get this camera, and the overheating, there are workarounds, but just keep in mind that this is the biggest gripe for me, and just from the principle of like, if I'm spending this much on a tool that I don't feel like is that reliable, I don't know if I can really recommend this to other people. And I don't know what's going on with Canon, because the R5 Mark II, they had to come out with an accessory grip, a fan grip for the R5 Mark II to prevent it from overheating. They are not, as of right now, there's nothing being said that they're going to come out with a cooling fan or grip or something for the R5. So in order for you to be able to shoot longer and to not worry about the overheating, you have to upgrade to the R5 Mark II, and you have to spend even more money on the accessory grip just so it prevents it from overheating. Yeah, and so it's made me feel some type of way about Canon. It's like you're coming out with these new cameras, you're trying to make all these new announcements and trying to create all this buzz around it, but you haven't fixed any of the issues from before, especially major issues like overheating. I don't know any other camera out there that overheats as fast as this does. I mean, I understand that these cameras, these mirrorless cameras nowadays, they're very compact, they're very powerful, so of course they generate a lot of heat, and the batteries are bigger capacity, so I understand all of that, but it's like, why charge as much as you do for these cameras if they're not fully reliable? I mean, I did not have any of these overheating issues or anything like that with DSLRs. I do know that other manufacturers, other camera brands, that cameras can overheat, but definitely not as fast as mine. I mean, sometimes when I'm out there filming a real estate video in the peak of the summer for like 10-15 minutes, then it overheats and I can't shoot in 4K anymore, and I got to do the rest of the shoot indoors or at 1080. So I did change my workflow, is that I film everything that I need to film indoors, and then if it's hot, then I go outside, I film as much as I can, as fast as I can, and then I come back inside. Or, you know, if I need to, I'll switch to 1080p while I'm outdoors. And it's just really annoying to have to do that, especially with the camera like this, like the R5. A brief overview, I guess, is that yes, this camera is still a great camera. I mean, it's very powerful. It's a huge upgrade from the 5D Mark IV in terms of its video specs. Even for photo, the 45 megapixels, I mean, it's awesome. Though for me, the photo side of this camera wasn't really that much more impressive than the photo capabilities I feel like that I had in the 5D Mark IV and what I shoot in, the genres that I shoot in. But the video specs of this camera completely blow out the 5D Mark IV. Even though it's not as reliable, when I am able to shoot indoors, I'm able to shoot it, and I'm shooting in log, there's just a lot more, the video capabilities of this camera is just more powerful than the 5D Mark IV. So I just kind of want to share that, and that's why I've kept it. But would I recommend the R5? Sure, I would, but just know you're going to be running into the issues that I mentioned before. The overheating and the electric viewfinder. If you can deal with those, or if you're a straight on photography shooter, then yeah, for sure you won't have any issues with this. But if you're also on a budget and you're just straight photography shooter, there's nothing wrong with going with the DSLR. You're saving a lot of money. Granted, it's not the latest and greatest, and you are going to be getting an older piece of equipment because no one supports DSLRs really anymore. Canon announced that they weren't going to support DSLRs anymore, so what you get is kind of what you get. You're not going to get any more firmware updates or anything like that, so take that as you will. But the last thing I guess I would say is, with the R5 Mark II still being a very new camera, a lot of people still don't have it, so the reviews and the uses of it are slowly coming out. As people are using it more, they're giving out their first impressions and all that. I personally do not feel compelled to buy the R5 Mark II. I feel like it is kind of, there aren't enough upgrades in that camera for me to justify spending $4,000 plus, because I would get the cooling grip, plus the new batteries that are coming out, the LPE6Ps, and I would just have to buy all these new things, and I just don't feel like that justifies the price tag that I would be spending just to get the R5 Mark II. At least for this camera, even though I got his gripes with it, and sometimes I feel like it's not fully dependable, the way that I know how it works now, because I've used it for so long, I'd rather deal with his disappointment once than disappointment twice in buying a new camera and still having similar issues with it, in terms of its overheating and like how dependable it is on hot days or shooting outdoors. So I will not be upgrading. I mean, if you have, or if you want to, by all means, I'm not telling you don't. But just for me personally, this is my take on it. And I just haven't really seen many videos lately give an honest review about Canon and what they're doing, and the R5 and the R5 Mark II. So I kind of wanted to share my thoughts on it, my feelings, and I do feel some type of way about it. I'm not gonna lie, just because of, you know, like I said, if a camera is not dependable, why are you charging $4,000 for it? You know, no matter what it can do, because, you know, what good is spending, you know, 80 grand on a car is if when you need to use it, it doesn't work. It just looks nice. I mean, you know, like, so yeah, so that's just me. I mean, definitely let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that I'm wrong. Let me know if you have the R5 Mark II and you're like, nah, Eric, like the R5 Mark II is definitely worth it. You should definitely get it. You should trade your R5 in for the Mark II. Whatever your thoughts are, or if you have any questions, definitely leave them below. I didn't want this to be like a Canon hating video, but it is something that I did want to mention for anybody who is thinking about going into Canon's R5 series. The R6 and the R6 Mark II, I've heard really great things about. I'm sure Canon is going to be coming out with like a Mark III or something like that. But yeah, so take what you will with this information. I just hope that it's helpful, and I just kind of want to lay it out there, get it off my chest, because I've been thinking about this for some time. Yeah, I do feel some type of way about Canon now. So with all that said, I appreciate you so much for watching. Thanks guys for watching for all the way to the end of the video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace. Oh, also, before I forget, I want to let you know that this whole video was actually filmed with 5D Mark IV. So just keep that in mind as you watch this, and that you check out the quality of the video. Again, the 5D Mark IV I think is still a great camera, depending on what you need it for. I won't recommend it to everybody. Depending on what you need it for, it's still a great camera to get. And this is the video quality of it. I'm shooting in 4K 30, so do what you will with that information. Okay, that's all guys. All right, peace.